Did I just step into a different dimension? Alright, so I work at a call center for a major insurance company. I know. Boo! Insurance is a racket. I get it. But, meh, it's a living. I've worked there for 5 years. While in training, I met a pretty cool dude named Jesse, who was also in training. We became work buddies and hang out during breaks and lunches. One day during lunch, while we were shooting the shit, he told me something straight out of a sci-fi flick. It was totally weird. So he starts off saying he's chilling at home one day, minding his own business, when out of nowhere, he gets this intense urge to step outside and just stand on his front lawn. Like he couldn't ignore it. He absolutely had to do it. He said it was the strongest feeling he ever had. So he does it, right? He gets up, opens the front door, walks outside, and stands in the front yard. He's just standing there, zoning out. Out of nowhere, he gets hit with this funky feeling. His upper body starts swaying in circles for no reason, like everything's gone wonky for a second. He felt 100% detached from reality. He was looking at himself standing there, like he was on the outside looking in, about 3 feet away. After doing a 360 around his body and stopping at his face, he could tell that he was just totally spaced out, just gazing into the void. A few minutes later, things started to chill out. As he starts to peace out back inside, things start to get even crazier. Jesse spots his car parked on the street in its normal spot, and get this, it's the same make and model, same crap hanging from the rear view, but a completely different color. What the fuck? But wait, it gets even weirder. His wife comes out, looking all normal, but he swears she's not really his wife. At least, not exactly. She's like completely switching up her vibe, liking food she supposedly hated before, and talking about stuff they did together that Jesse doesn't remember and swears he had nothing to do with. The strange train doesn't stop there. For 5 years, 5 days a week, he's taken the same path to work. Now the way he takes to work is almost the same, with a few noticeable differences to the route. He also starts clocking all these weird-ass changes around town. He saw several buildings he swears weren't there before. They just seemed to pop up overnight, out of nowhere. Gas stations where he always got gas are now just an open lot. Folks he used to know and work with in different departments, now they never worked there and nobody else seems to remember them. When he asks about them, he just gets weird looks, like they think he's losing it. Now, this guy's not some Looney Tune, okay? Jesse's a regular dude, healthy as can be. Hell, I go to the gym with him 3 days a week. But he swears his whole life shifted that day. He's living with this feeling that about 15% of his world just flipped upside down in the blink of an eye. I saw the man behind the curtain. So picture this. I'm strolling to work one fine day, nothing out of the ordinary. Just walking along like I've done countless times before. But then, Out of the blue, I get this crazy urge to switch up my usual route. I don't know why. I like to keep things the same. Kind of if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of guy. Now, I work smack dab in the heart of downtown, surrounded by towering skyscrapers and bustling streets. This urge, though, it felt like it came from somewhere deep down within me. Like my gut was telling me I needed to shake things up. So I take a sharp turn into this alley I swear I've never laid eyes on before. It's like stepping into another world. And then, out of nowhere, after going about 15 or 20 feet, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's hard to put into words, but it's like my brain just glitches out. Suddenly, I don't feel like I'm in my own body anymore. It's like I'm this floaty, semi-conscious entity drifting through some bizarre alternate dimension. I'm not actually walking, more like gliding. Bizarre. And that's when things get really freaky. I start seeing things that are the wrong colors. Green buildings, blue stop signs, white tires on cars, and everybody dressed in red and orange. In the midst of all this chaos, I see them. These strange figures, almost like lawyers or something in black suits, but not quite right. They look at me and start freaking out, like they're not supposed to be seen. Then, one of them makes a sudden move, and bam, everything goes black. When I finally snap back to reality, I'm not in the strange alley anymore. I'm on a totally different street. The one I've walked down to work 1,000,000 times before. But this time, it's like I'm seeing it with new eyes. I feel sick to my stomach, like something inside me has been twisted up and turned inside out. I also feel very depressed, like I just lost a loved one. Now, let me tell you, I'm pretty familiar with how things really are. I've never dabbled in anything hallucinogenic or anything like that. But this was nothing I've ever experienced. And the worst part, when I look back on that glitch, I can't shake the feeling that I was being watched, like some puppet on strings being controlled by someone or something. It's a feeling that still haunts me to this day, like I stumbled upon something I was not supposed to see. And let me tell you, it's been eating at me ever since. All right, let's rewind the clock to my days in primary school when I lived in Delaware, way back in '87. One day, this new kid pops up, breaking into our little circle with a twang straight out of Kentucky. His name was Colt. Now, Colt wasn't your run-of-the-mill schoolmate. Hell no. He came packing something straight out of a sci-fi flick. Picture this, a gadget that looked like a skinny tablet, but this was way before tablets were even a thing. It was very thin and had this slick brown tinted glass screen. What was he doing with it? Watching movies, of course. Dude was a movie buff through and through. On God, I swear this happened. No bullshit. You can imagine the scene when he whipped that thing out. We're all gathered around like it's show and tell day, marveling at this this technological wonder. Sure, we tried to compare it to our Ataris or Commodore 64s, but this thing was on a whole other level. I even joked with Colt that it reminded me of something out of the Max Headroom TV show, but he just shrugged it off like I was speaking another language. We kinda just went with it and didn't really think it was anything magical, but man, it totally was. Thing is, Colt was super cagey about his gadget. He kept it tucked away from the teachers and never brought it back in after that day. And whenever we bombarded him with questions, he'd just give us these cryptic answers, like he was guarding the key to some secret treasure trove. I kept bugging him about his Star Trek computer, and he shook his head and said he wasn't sure. All he'd say was his dad snagged it somewhere, and that was it. Fast forward a few years. He told me of something that later freaked me the fuck out. He said that he watched this movie that supposedly had every cartoon character ever known in it. It took me a few years to figure out that he was talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which came out not long after that. Mind blown. It's been like 30 years since this happened. Trying to describe this thing to people was like pulling teeth. Tablets weren't exactly commonplace back then, like they are now. I'd sketch it out, trying to show folks what I'd seen. When Big with Tom Hanks came out, and there's that scene with the handheld comic book video device, I practically jumped out of my seat yelling, "That's it! That's what Cole had!" But my folks just shrugged it off, thinking I was full of shit. Then along comes Star Trek TNG with those pads. I'm like, nailed it! Shortly after that, when tablets and iPads hit the scene, I'm all, see, I wasn't making shit up. But even now, with tablets all over the place, people still give me that skeptical look, like I'm gaslighting or something. I've thought about tracking down some of the old gang on Facebook to back me up, 'cause I know they'd remember. Of course, no one's buying what I'm saying. That's the story of my life right there. Man, let me take you back to my high school days in our little town. There was this girl. She was just a regular part of the crowd. Dressed normal, act normal, not super pretty, but not fugly either. Kinda right down the middle. Nothing really stood out about her until that one tragic day. I remember it like it was yesterday. She's by herself, driving and texting away with a friend like it's no big deal, using her knee to steer the car. More focused on her phone than the road, she misses the sign that says exit closed. Before she realizes it, she hits a massive hole in the road, which pops the front tire. Then the steering goes all wonky, and she veers off the side of the exit ramp that's under construction. Thankfully, no construction workers were there, but it sure made a mess of her ride. She just plummets down the side. It was a fucking nightmare, dude. The whole town was reeling from it. It's a small place, so news travels at the speed of sound. Her funeral became the talk of the town for weeks. I remember my sister and her friends going, and it was just heavy, you know? So jump ahead almost a decade. I'm with my fiance, and I've drilled this story into her head so many times she practically knows it by heart. She'll even finish some of the sentences I'm about to say. She's heard it so much. I'm always preaching about the dangers of texting and driving, using this girl's deadly encounter as a story with an important lesson to learn. Now, here's where things get wild as fuck. My partner's from across the country, and I hardly ever visit my hometown, so she hasn't met any of my high school crew. One day, my fiance's scrolling through my sister's Facebook friends, and she's like, "Wait a second, isn't this the girl you've been telling me about?" I come over to take a look, and I can't believe it. She's alive and kicking. She married a buddy of mine I used to hang with. She's got a kid and living her life like nothing ever happened. I'm standing there scratching my head like, are you shitting me? It's like the whole thing just vanished into thin air. Poof. Nobody remembers the accident, the funeral, or anything. It's like it never even happened. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, man. It's like something straight out of the Twilight Zone. It still blows my mind. Man, let me tell you about this crazy, mind-bending moment I had. So, picture this. I'm at work, minding my own business, when I get this gut-wrenching call from my mom. She hits me with the news that my uncle had passed away. It hit me like a ton of bricks, you know? He and I were super tight. He was a very cool guy. The next day at work, I'm trying to process it all, and in the midst of it, I spill the beans to one of my coworkers who I'm good friends with. He gives me that sympathetic nod, offering his condolences and all that. I ended up using a sick day to grieve. Fast forward a couple of weeks, and my sister drops this bombshell on me. She's chatting about my aunt and uncle doing their thing, and I'm like, hold up, he's gone. But she looks at me like I've lost it and says he's very much alive. Cue the confusion and panic mode. I'm on the horn with my mom faster than you can say whiplash. And what do you know? Uncle's still kicking it, breathing and all. Now, you'd think that'd be the end of it, right? Wrong. To this day, I'm still playing detective, trying to piece together what's real and what my brain cooked up. Did I actually talk to my coworker? I checked with him, and he doesn't remember the conversation. What? Was the phone call with my mom even real? She said she never called and said that. It's like my mind's playing tricks on me, and it's enough to give a guy the heebie-jeebies. It's so trippy to think my brain could conjure up such a vivid memory like that. Now, on to the next wild ride. I'm chilling at a train station, waiting for my ride like any other day. It's about a 15-minute ride to get to the stop. It's a busy day. People are everywhere, merging on and off the platforms. There's this lady making her rounds, hitting up folks for cash. She swings by me, drops the classic line, "Hey, sorry to bother you, but do you have any spare change? My brother's in the hospital and I want to get him some flowers." I'm like, yeah, right. Seems like folks are just laying it on thicker these days when they ask for help. But being the softy and nice guy I am, I slip her a $5 without even batting an eye, knowing what she's probably going to use it for. So my ride finally arrives and I hop on the train, glancing back at her through the glass as we pull away. Fast forward 15 minutes. I hop off the train and luckily catch the last bus going where I need to go before it takes off. I plop down in my seat on the bus and start chilling like a villain. After a few minutes of waiting, the bus driver shuts the door and we take off. After about 10 minutes, we pull up to a bus stop. The doors swing open and guess who strolls onto the bus? Miss Flower Power herself from the train station, now with a dozen roses in hand. Can you believe that shit? She looks at me, smiles, and gives me a super creepy wink as she walks past, like she's got some kind of superpower. I'm sitting there, mind blown, trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, how the hell did she beat me there? I took the train, watched her from the window as it left, crossed a river, caught the only bus going my way, and yet she still managed to go to a store to get a dozen roses and somehow got ahead of me to catch my bus down the road. It's like something straight out of the X-Files, man. Crazy shit. All right, let me take you back to about 4 years ago to one of the craziest moments of my life. I'm cruising through town on my motorcycle doing about 45 miles per hour when out of nowhere, this woman pulls a left turn right in front of me. Talk about a heart-stopping moment. Now, time seems to slow down to a crawl as I'm hurtling towards her car. In reality, it was only a fraction of a second. I'm weighing my options, trying to decide if I should try to go over the car or go under it by laying my bike down. In a split-second decision, I opt to lay the bike down. The bike shoots straight under her car, while I go flying diagonally across the pavement. I'm sliding, wearing nothing but jeans and a cheap hoodie I snagged from Walmart. No helmet, no gloves, no chaps. It feels like an eternity as I skid across the pavement, maybe around 80 to 100 feet or so, leaving a trail of sparks in my wake. I'm not 100% sure on the length of it, I know it's close to that. I just know it seemed to take forever. I could feel the vibration of the ground. When I finally come to a stop, I'm in shock. I stand up expecting the worst road rash ever, but miraculously, I'm completely unscathed. Not a scratch on me. The only damage I can find on my clothes is a hole about the size of a quarter in the elbow of my hoodie. I remember just staring at that hole, then glancing over at my mangled bike, and all I can think is, this isn't how physics works. It was like something out of a movie, but somehow, against all odds, I walked away without a scratch. Crazy, right? Dude, let me tell you about this trippy-ass experience I had with my girl at Chipotle. So we roll up to this smallish shopping area, right? It's got all these high-end joints like a Red Robin and Outback beside Chipotle, giving off major upper-class vibes. It's around 5 p.m. on a chill Friday evening when we pull into the parking lot. But here's the kicker. It's like a ghost town. No tables outside, no cars parked, not a soul in sight. It looks almost abandoned. Even the lights in the building were out. Feeling hella confused, I do a loop around the lot to dip out. The only thing catching my eye is this lone fire truck chilling by the building, headlights on, but no cherries turning and no one in the cab. Weird, right? We figure they must have just finished putting out a fire and were doing reports or something. But hold up, it gets even weirder. As we round the back and come back to the front, it's like we stepped into an alternate reality or something. Suddenly, every parking spot's taken. Tables are packed with people chowing down, and the joint's buzzing with activity. The lights inside the building are on, and the fire truck vanished into thin air. And get this, bro, it all went down in less than 30 seconds. Easily one of the trippiest things I've ever experienced, man. Talk about a total mindfuck. Dude, let me tell you about this wild dream I had. So, picture this. Me and the gang are cruising down from the mountains after a sick snowboarding trip. We're jamming out in the car, playing I Spy and all that usual road trip bullshit. Then, out of nowhere, Master of Puppets by Metallica comes on the radio and we all start belting it out like it's karaoke night. But here's where things take a turn for the gnarly. We're zooming down the mountain and bam, a massive car wreck unfolds right in front of us. It's like something out of Final Destination. Cars smashing into each other and one even goes flying off the edge. I try to swerve to the right to avoid it, but that caused us to get sideswiped by the car behind us, sending us flipping to the other side of the road. The whole thing went into slow-mo. I remember this fuzzy feeling, upside down in the car, hanging from my seatbelt. I checked on my buddies and they were absolutely thrashed. It was brutal. It gives me the chills just thinking about it, man. I wake up totally in tears, just freaking out. It was like some crazy nightmare, man. Back to real life, years later. Me and the crew decide to hit the slopes for some fresh powder. A killer storm just passed, leaving some sweet pack. We're having a blast, totally shredding it up on the slopes, when we decide to call it a day and head back down the mountain. This is where shit hits the fan. I get this massive deja vu. I hear the same banter in the car, playing I Spy, and then, you guessed it, Metallica's Master of Puppets comes blasting through the speakers. I'm freaking out, 'cause it's like I'm living my nightmare all over again. What the fuck? I remember the dream. I remember what happened next. So instead of panicking and swerving right like I did in the dream, I make a split-second decision to veer left. I almost ate it, barely dodging the carnage. Dude, everything slows down. It's like time itself pumped the brakes. We pulled over and called 911. I'm shaking, I'm crying, but somehow that stupid dream seemed to save our lives. It's a trip, dude. I can't help but think that dream saved my life. During my high school years, I held on to idealistic aspirations. particularly when selecting a college. In pursuit of self-discovery and independence, I deliberately chose a university where none of my peers were attending. However, fate had a very different plan in store for me. In my first semester, I made strong connections with a select group of individuals who quickly became like family. Among them was my close friend Sam, who hit a patch of black ice during a return trip from visiting loved ones and tragically died in the crash. It left an indelible scar on my soul. The pain lingered for a long, long time. It was a constant reminder of life's fragility. Weeks after Sam's untimely passing, a peculiar occurrence shook up our dormitory routine. It was a brisk evening following an off-campus gathering when, standing outside our dorm, my phone began to vibrate incessantly. Pulling it out, I was taken aback to see an incoming call from Sam's phone. Bewildered, I swiftly shared the inexplicable moment with my friends before answering. As I tentatively accepted the call, it bypassed any ringtone, leading straight to Sam's voicemail, replaying his familiar message. It was a fleeting, surreal experience, one we scarcely discussed afterward. Yet, for me, it gave me the power of something deeper, a faint whisper of comfort in the midst of sorrow. In the wake of his spectral call, I found an unexpected solace, a temporary reprieve from the depths of despair I had been submerged in. The inexplicable nature of the event remains a mystery, a testament to the enigmatic forces that shape our reality. Nevertheless, this glitch in the matrix remains a cherished blessing, a beacon of light amid darkness. Back when I was in my early 20s, a couple of years back, I kept having these recurring dreams about this woman with long, flowing black hair named Zyla. It was weird, man. Different dreams, different scenarios, but her face and name were always the same, like they were etched into my subconscious. I'd wake up annoyed and puzzled. I tried to Google her name or figure out how we're linked, trying to piece together who this Zyla chick was and why she kept popping up in my dreams. After a few months, though, the dreams stopped, and I just chalked it up to my brain being a total asshole, messing with me for shits and giggles. Fast forward a few years to Halloween 2020. I just finished filling up the car at the gas station with a buddy. As I'm waiting for traffic to clear to pull out of the gas station, my phone starts humming. It's a call from some random number. I answer it, but nobody's on the other end. Meanwhile, this impatient dickwad behind me starts honking like crazy. Instead of waiting a few seconds for me to move out of his way, he then decides to swerve around me and gun it onto the highway. Next thing I know, a blue Camry loses control and plows into Mr. Hurry that swerved in front of me. It's a total wreck, man. I call the cops and wait for them to show up. It turns out both drivers didn't make it. It hits me like a freight train. I would have been toast if I hadn't gotten that mysterious phone call. Later that night, out of gratitude and sheer curiosity, I decided to call that number back. It rings a few times, then goes to voicemail.
Hi, you've reached Zyla. Please leave your name and number.
Talk about chills, dude. My goosebumps had goosebumps. I've never felt anything like it. The next day, I'm still reeling from the whole ordeal, so I decide to call again. This time, some woman picks up. We start chatting, and I tell her about everything, including those crazy dreams I had. She's as confused as I am, claiming she never called me and has no idea how I got her number. She rarely gives it out to anybody and almost never calls anyone in the first place. She texts. Weird, right? But here's where it gets even freakier. I ask her if she's got an Instagram, just to confirm if she's the same Zyla from my dreams. Reluctantly, she gives it to me and I check her profile. I'll be goddamned. It's her. She looks exactly like the chick from my dreams. Maximum weirdness. I don't know about you, but if that ain't a glitch in the Matrix, then I must be losing my fucking mind. It's enough to make a guy question his sanity, that's for sure. So, check this shit out. My old man had this stupid little toy monkey that he'd always mess around with, calling it his favorite child and teasing me and my siblings with it. It was all in good fun, but let me tell you, it used to drive us nuts. We'd spend hours trying to figure out a way to swap that damn thing from him. Anyway, one glorious day, we finally managed to snag it. We ended up chucking it in the trash after giving it a little makeover with a Sharpie. We scribbled some shit on it and roughed it up, tearing off its right arm and threw stuffing everywhere. My dad had a laugh about it and even searched for it for about a week or so, but eventually he figured we'd trashed it and called it a day. Fast forward a few years. I'm wandering the streets of Tampa, just hanging out with some buds. I don't live in Tampa, just visiting. As we're walking down the road, shooting the shit, I noticed something lying off the side of the road. I went over to it and picked it up. I couldn't believe it. It was that same damn monkey lying there on the side of the road in Tampa, looking all beat up with the same black Sharpie lines we drew on it, and its right arm was missing. I couldn't even wrap my head around it. Our garbage gets shipped off to some local dump, nowhere near Tampa, and yet here's this monkey popping up out of nowhere. It was like something out of a fucking horror movie, man. So, you know what I did? I took that little bastard with me, and you bet your ass I made sure it wouldn't come back to haunt me again. I took it out back and gave it the old fiery send-off. Call me paranoid, but I wasn't about to take any chances with that creepy monkey's resurrection. Dude, check this. I'm chilling at my girlfriend's crib, just kicking back, watching a movie, you know? It's around 10 p.m. when the flick ends, and I'm like, all right, time to roll. Now, here's the deal. I live like 2 blocks away in this pretty chill suburban hood. So I grab my board and start cruising home, feeling the cool night air against my face as I hit the streets. It's late and there's no traffic. I'm bombing down this hill, thinking I'm all smooth and stuff, when I hit this fucking rock out of nowhere. Next thing I know, I'm eating pavement, skidding like 3 or 4 feet on my head, shoulder, hip, and knee. It's like Pain City, bro. I'm lying there, unable to move, just screaming my lungs out. And then I see it. About 30 yards down the road, this car is heading straight for me. No brakes, no nothing. I'm stuck, right in the middle of its lane, head aligned with the wheel. I try to move, to scream, to do anything, but I'm frozen, man. The car's closing in, like 15 yards away now. He doesn't spot me. He's not swerving or anything. 10 yards away, I hear the engine roaring louder. I can see the undercarriage. I'm freaking the fuck out. Eyes shut tight, bracing for impact. This is it. But then, nothing. I crack open my eyes and look in the direction it was coming. Nothing. I look the other direction and see its taillights driving away. I didn't move and he didn't swerve. It's like he went straight through me. Or I through him. There's no way he could have gone over me, not with how I landed in the street. Plus, it was a tiny car. But either way, it's some next level spooky stuff, dude. I pick myself up, bloody, shaken, and utterly baffled, hobble my way home and crash out, trying to understand what just happened. But here's the kicker, bro. Nobody believes me. They're all like, yeah, right, you're just tripping. But I swear on my board, it's fucking true. Wild, right? Back in my high school days, I had this surreal experience during one of our history classes. Now, history was kind of my jam. I was acing the class without even breaking a sweat. So one day, our teacher decides to mix things up and throws us into teams for a group quiz. But here's the twist. He's pulling out the hardest questions from the depths of history. Long story short, my team nails it, thanks in no small part to yours truly. Not to toot my own horn or anything. But then, some dude from the other team, clearly jealous by our performance, throws me this line. "Holy crap, Tanner, did you memorize the entire damn textbook?" And just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, as a way to test his theory, he flips open the textbook to a random page and drops the bomb. "What's the little factoid on the side of page 213? Now, I'm sweating bullets, man. But then, out of nowhere, it hits me. I had my book open to a random page and remember reading a little blurb on the side right before the quiz. It was about the 9/11 terrorist attack titled Death from Above. So, I muster up all the calm I can, clear my throat, and casually respond. Death from above. Dude's jaw practically hits the floor. He slams the book shut, mutters a very eloquent, "Fuck you," and that's that. I mean, seriously, what are the odds? The exact page, the exact paragraph. It's like something out of a freaking movie. To this day, it's my go-to mindfuck story. And get this, the teacher's reaction? Pure shock. Either he missed the "fuck you" part, or he was too stunned to care. It's not every day you witness a student drop an F-bomb in front of the faculty without consequences, especially at a strict Catholic high school. One evening, my friend, my roommate, her boyfriend, and I were all hanging out in our apartment shooting the shit. Our roommate had just received her new phone and was sitting on her bed exploring the features while we chatted away. As we talked, our roommate casually placed her phone down beside her. But when she reached for it a few minutes later, it had vanished into thin air. I mean, it was like a magic trick. Poof, gone. We were all baffled. I called it, but we couldn't hear it ringing or vibing. We sprang into action, scouring every nook and cranny of her room. We flipped the mattress, shook out the bedding, and even checked under and behind the furniture, but no love. The phone seemed to have vanished into oblivion. Despite the fact that none of us had left the room during our conversation, we began to entertain the idea that maybe the phone had somehow ended up elsewhere in the apartment. So we started scouring the whole joint. After exhausting every possible hiding spot, we decided to investigate her car. Unbelievably, there it was, in the locked trunk. Now, here's the glitch. Our apartment was on the 3rd floor, and we were all together in the same room when the phone disappeared. It was a mind-boggling mystery that left us scratching our heads for days. Thank you for watching and listening until the very end. You kicked total ass.